Brenton, welcome. Hi, thank you so much for joining us from literally the other side of the world for this session on mentoring and coaching and elevating your professional development. Would you mind by telling our audience a bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and where you do
No worries.
it?
Hey, thanks, Dee. Yeah, great to catch up again, and no doubt look forward to seeing you again in person real soon. Brenton Harrison. Technically, my official title, with my paid employment, if you will, General Manager Operations for a construction company here in Aotearoa, little old New Zealand. Recently elevated to that role after being employed as the Health, Safety and Environment Manager. So as a professional, I guess I would argue I'm through and through health and safety professional down here. And yeah, that's just probably a little bit about me. Been doing it now for probably 8 or 9 years as a health and safety professional. Dabble in a number of other bits and pieces on the side as you do. And that's a bit about me, really.
Amazing, thank you. So subject is really, really relevant to you, I guess. I mean, we talk a lot, don't we, about how we're all stronger together and on how we all continue to learn from each other, whatever stage we are in our professional journeys. But to start off with, what do you think we mean? What would be your take on what exactly do we mean by a mentor?
Yeah, good question, Dee. I think, and I'm a big believer of really trying to nail that down. Because when you talk about mentoring, and if you did a quick Google search now for mentor, even a lot of the articles that come up can be a little bit confusing. There's a lot of confusion, I think, between mentoring and coaching. And I'm a big fan of if we're going to be doing, it's really important to understand what we're talking about, I guess, and what we're into. Because if we don't understand the context of it, it makes it a wee bit challenging, So it was interesting. I did do a little Google search, as you do. It's a great little thing these days.
But ChatGPT.
Well, don't give away all my secrets, Steve. not this early in the piece. But yeah, I guess it depends. In terms of a noun, which is, I guess, the naming word of it as such is. The mentor is often considered an experienced or trusted advisor, which is interesting, and then that goes into, I guess, what do they actually do? And again, I've found some interesting, I guess, crossovers. While it seemed mentoring and coaching were two quite separate things, I think there's a little bit of crossover. There are some little differences, but some of the stuff that I picked up on around what is a mentor, and I guess historically it's normally an individual. That has a range of experiences that they're willing to share and guide somebody through a situation. Now, normally, I guess it doesn't have to always be a work context, right? It could be a professional context, and what we're talking about here, it very much is a professional context that we're talking about. But yeah, generally an experienced person who supports somebody with less experience into whatever it is that they're looking to move into. So I think it doesn't have to be one individual, as we'll talk about a bit later on, I'm sure, but somebody that helps support an individual.
So how important do you think it is then that we get the chance to choose who our mentor is rather than have a mentor allocated? Because you said that relationship is so important.
Yeah, no, it is, and it was interesting. I spent a bit of time reflecting on this before we jumped on here, and I thought back through my career and the sort of, I guess, have I had any mentors myself? And I've got to be honest, I have. I've had some. I've had more than one mentor, and I started reflecting on how I ended up in those situations, and one of the ways that I ended up in the situation started off as an employer-employee relationship, and I guess I don't want to sound too kind of funny about it, but it sort of blossomed into a mentor-mentee relationship to the point now where the individual is no longer my employer. I work elsewhere, but she is still my mentor. I often call her when I'm faced with a situation, especially around ethics. That's quite a grey area for many of us as professionals. Where do we draw the line? And And that's where that experience, she's been in the industry for a long time, and we get along really well. And that's where the relationship developed from an employer-employee relationship into that mentor-mentee relationship. And I found that's probably been my longest standing mentor-mentee relationship, where it wasn't forced as such. I didn't go out looking for it as such. It just sort of happened, I guess, if for want of a better description. And I have also gone out and sought mentors for very specific things. So I'm currently working through my professional grading, as many of us do. And the next step, I've got to pull together a considerable portfolio of work to move to the next grading within the New Zealand Institute of Safety Management's program. And in order to be effective in that, I reached out to NZISM and said, hey, listen, they've got a mentoring program. Really interested in obtaining a mentor to help me through this next stage. And to be honest, that experience has been really good as well. We obviously had an initial conversation. We sounded each other out, and we've made a really good connection, and it's worked really well. So, yeah, I think there's two ways you can go about it. I mean, I've had a few others through, some business mentors and stuff, and I kind of didn't really find those ones connected as well. But recently, I've had some really good ones, and even more recently, I've ended up in a situation where I've actually got a group of mentors, and that wasn't initially the intention behind it. But and Dee, I guess just to put you on the spot a little bit, you've ended up as one of those mentors on the INSHPO executive committee, where I'm the intern. So I think those situations, like I said, have proven to be very valuable, and where they've just developed and blossomed.
Oh, it's really interesting distinctions between all the different ways that we can work with mentors. That's really interested me about that natural employer one that has just become almost like a lifelong versus one that's been allocated. What would you see as being the main benefits wherever those mentors have come from? How has that benefited you?
So I guess it depends on how it's unfolded, really. So if we look at the two situations I've found myself in, one being it's developed naturally over time through personal relationships as they've grown. I've found myself as a professional in a number of situations where I wasn't quite sure which way to go. And one of those, to be fair, was career development. I was very conscious when I started out in the safety profession, not jumping ahead too quickly, really doing and making sure that everything was working and I was getting the experience that I needed to progress my career steadily. And so when I was offered opportunities around moving into, say, management or a senior position, I'd go out and I'd have conversations with her about, hey, listen, am I actually ready for this as a professional? Maybe as an individual, I was ready, but as a professional, am I ready for this? So there's been some really good stuff there in that space. And then with the other ones, it's been around, very specific things. So like I mentioned, with the professional development aspect of it, going in and asking those things. So yeah, it's been a huge benefit, not just from an ethical situation, but also from a career development.
Personal development as well, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, for sure.
There's quite a few sort of professional bodies and professional organisations that will offer that mentor service, and a lot of those, I think, it's professionals that want to give back and they volunteer to do that. I mean, there's a question in there: is that the way mentoring should be, or do you think there's scope for it to be more of a paid service if it offers so much value?
Yeah, well, so that's a fascinating thing, right? Mentors, I guess, when you start thinking about mentors, I guess people often think of it's a selfless act, right? You want to mentor somebody, and it's a selfless act, and mentors, I guess, can often be martyrs, if you will, wanting to give back to the industry, and there's a lot of value in that, and I think. You'll always have that. I guess the distinction that I'm struggling with, and I don't actually know what the answer is, Dee, but if it moves into that paid relationship, and I think there is space for that, and I think it potentially adds a little bit of values, potentially adds a bit of incentive for the mentee potentially. Hey, listen, I'm paying for this. I've got to actually dig in and do something. But once it moves from a person giving their time for somebody to a paid relationship, I guess what I don't know is, does that change the relationship? So if you're paying to be somewhere, does that change the relationship? And I think maybe over time it won't, because over time you'll still, if the mentor's any good, I guess, you'll still develop that personal relationship regardless of whether there's a financial transaction at the end. It's a fascinating one, and I don't actually have the answer for that, because being a mentor, I guess, it takes a lot of time, right? It's not something that you just sort of roll in, roll out of. If you're really putting that time and effort into that individual, and you really want to see that individual grow, there's often a lot of stuff that goes on in the background as the mentor, thinking potentially even some homework for the mentor around, your next catch up and the like.
A level of investment. But I kind of like your structure of that employer relationship, where you could tap into that, throughout a whole career journey and life journey, versus the very specific when you need something for professional route to membership. That agility is kind of nice. What advice would you give our audience? If you've got somebody who's just take yourself right back to the beginning of your health and safety career, and what advice would you give our audience that are just starting on that journey? Because there's another question as well. Does everybody need a mentor? Can we all benefit from a mentor? What advice would you give them on the whole mentor-mentee relationship?
Yeah, well, just kind of thinking back to the start of my career and I guess how I've progressed and where I've got to. And again, our relationship has developed out of an opportunity that I took, right? So for me, if the advice I'd give individuals starting out in the safety profession is look for as many opportunities as you can. It's all about those opportunities. And I think it was interesting, I was talking to some young people the other day, and I remember I am prepared to give my time. I'm prepared to put my hand up and say, listen, I want this opportunity. I will commit to this opportunity. I will invest in this opportunity. So as somebody starting out in the safety space, I think knowledge is power, right? And experience is valuable, especially if you're a generalist, like I am in the safety space. Broader breadth of knowledge you have, the greater value you can add to an organization, right? So it's all about those opportunities and look for as many as you can, grab them with both hands. And like I said, even if that means volunteering your time. I think the other thing too, and I came into the safety profession, I guess, a little bit late in my career. It's sort of my second career, if you will. And what I probably didn't do at the start is, this is where having that mentor was so valuable for me. And one of the things she said to me is, Brenton, because I used to say to her, listen, I really think I've wasted the last 20 years of my life. I finally found a profession. I'm enjoying it. I mean, I loved my last career, don't get me wrong, but suddenly I moved into this space and I was like, I've wasted, the whole 20 years of my life or whatever. And she said, no, you definitely have not wasted it. Value your experience, So one of the things that as safety professionals we need that breadth of experience. We need those life skills, depending on where we're at in the safety game. And so I really encourage people, especially if they're coming, even if they're coming into the safety career straight out of university or straight out of school, value your experience, value what you bring to the table and call on that experience, So, even if you are straight out of school or university, you've played in sports teams, right? You've worked in those, you've engaged in those team dynamics, and that's what we're all about, right? People, so pull on all that. So it's so hugely available. And the other thing is, don't be afraid to work hard. If you really want something, unfortunately, not everything just happens. You've actually got to work hard and work smart, but also be prepared to work hard. And I do believe, Dee, one of the things that I do on Speed is find a mentor if you can. Get a mentor, whether that's like I said, through that employer-employee relationship. Maybe initially it's reaching out to a professional body if you need to. Potentially it's about asking people listen, is anyone you can recommend as a mentor? Because I think in the safety space, one of the things that I don't think people realise is the opportunities within this space are so vast, right? Like, you can be a specialist, you can be a generalist, you can be in-house, you can be a consultant. There's so many options around professional development. It's actually quite overwhelming if you starting out, right? So by grabbing a mentor, they can hopefully kind of have conversations with you, develop relationships with you, and over time make suggestions and give you some ideas around, hey, listen, actually, you've got a really good skill set here. Why don't you become a trainer, or why don't you become a specialist hygienist, or whatever the case may be, So, yeah, those would be my sort of my 5 tips if I was to go back and talk to myself starting out in my career.
There's so much richness in the answer. I don't know which points to go back to first. I think one certainly really hit home for me, and that is the value a mentor brings in seeing things in ourselves that we don't see for ourselves. Like your mentor saying to you, value that 20 years of experience because you've already had so many safety experiences to bring to the table. So that was really empowering to hear. And also your point about how much opportunity there is and how much availability to each other there is. Like, we're speaking now, literally across opposite ends of the world, and we can connect and share experiences. Just amazing, So thank you for that. I think you also started to touch on another one of the questions that I've got here, which is, when does the mentor become a mentee, and when does the mentee become the mentor? You already said you were talking to younger professionals. So maybe when does that flip over? You've been or can we be both at the same time?
Yeah, no, fascinating question there, and quite it's almost like a matrix style dilemma, right? Like, can you be one while being the other? Do I take the red pill or do I take the blue pill? It's a little bit like, although obviously in safety we don't take any pills, but
no pills, no pills.
No pills. It's a fascinating thing, and I think which again is interesting, and for me, I do believe, yes, you can be a mentor and a mentee, or a mentee and a mentor, because again, I think something that you touched on earlier, Dee, we're all at different stages in our development. Whether we're a seasoned safety professional or whether we're just starting out, there's always what's the next thing, right? There's always how do I not stay stagnant? And I think that's where we're all at different stages needing different things. And so, right now I'm incredibly privileged. For a number of years now, I've been an employer where I've got staff working with me to roll out safety systems across an organisation. And what I've found is with, again, using one example, one of my employees said to my boss, actually, when we were interviewing her for the role where she currently is, Brenton's a great friend and a mentor. And it really hit home that, here I was so focused, I guess, selfishly about myself and my personal development and me having mentors and my career plan and where I wanted to go. I probably didn't really appreciate that, just like I had grown onto a mentee-mentor relationship with one of my previous employers. The same thing was happening with me and this individual. And it was quite an empowering moment for myself as a professional to go, wow, actually, I am a mentor. Wow. While I didn't necessarily seek to formally go out and put my hand up and say, hey, listen, I'm a mentor. Hey, listen, I'm here to be your mentor. It just kind of happened again naturally for this individual and for me as well as the mentor, So, it was a really interesting experience because what happened to me happened in reverse as well. And I definitely think you can be, because, for this individual, she's early in her safety career. Again, a lot of experience elsewhere, new to safety. But was really, whereas I'm, obviously slightly at a different place in my career. I've got slightly different goals. For this other individual, she doesn't quite know what she wants to do in safety. She knows she's enjoying safety, but doesn't quite know where it's going to take her or how it's going to open doors for her, or what she actually wants to do with it. Whereas I'm quite driven, I'm quite clear. I know exactly where I want to be, what I want to be doing, so it's really, it's been, I think you can be, and I think it's an incredibly enriching experience to be a mentor if you're privileged enough to have that opportunity.
I absolutely agree, and absolutely agree. You can be both at the same time, and I also think there's like that space in the middle where you need a mentor or mentee, but you're having just an amazing, rich conversation and bouncing ideas off each other, and both learning equally from the other.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think a mentor-mentee relationship, right? It's generally a long-term thing. It's not a. So yeah, I definitely feel, and I think there's also times in your career where maybe you don't necessarily have a mentor either, and I don't know if you need to. And there's times like with my mentor that I've mentioned. There are times where I go without, quite extended periods of time actually, without reaching out to her and without engaging with her, and then when I need to, I pick up the phone and that happens, but I do. I think there's also I like the way you said that. It's like that space in the middle, right, when you're in between things, and I think that's also a good thing to have, right? A bit of a break from time to time, gather your own thoughts, really identify before you move on to that next phase. Where are you at? Reflect on those past relations, that past experience with that mentor, and before you move forward, either with that same mentor or another one,
Yeah, that's a really valuable point. That could take us in a completely different direction about mental health and well-being, and having that headspace to actually talk about each other. But we won't go that route, else we will be here for another hour. Back to your internship with INSHPO, Brenton. So, massive congratulations on that. And for me, it's been a real pleasure working with you, and looking forward to continuing with that. You do bring energy and passion, and that's inspiring for other people as well. But tell us why you went for that internship, and what value is that bringing you?
Yeah, no, thanks, Steve. I mean, yeah, I think I like to think I'm pretty honest with myself, and I know that personally I've got gaps in my knowledge and my experience, and those are gaps because I'm, like I said to you a little bit earlier on, I've got a very clear path, I've got a very clear plan of what I want to be doing. I guess I see the sunset for my career, and I know how I'm going to ride off into that sunset, and so in order to do that, which is why I guess I took the opportunity with INSHPO, which was great. I mean, I couldn't believe it, right? An international organisation. So for those that maybe don't know what INSHPO is, it's the International Network of Safety and Health Professional Organisation. So effectively, it's a global alliance, right, dedicated to advancing the occupational health and safety profession. And here I was sitting in little old Aotearoa, obviously not enough things to do, and I was reading my local organisation, which is New Zealand Institute of Safety Management. I was reading the newsletter that came out, and sure enough, there was this blurb, right? And so I jumped on it, and it was really. I started doing a lot more research into it. I mean, I knew of INSHPO and I knew about it, but I really started, when I saw this opportunity, started doing a lot more research, and starting to realise that actually this is made up of sort of 12 global organisations make up the member organisations, and there's an executive of about 5, I think, that sit on the executive committee from all around the world, and one of my sunset is I want to be on the international stage, for want of a better word. I want to be working in that international space, be it opportunities like this you and I are having now through conferences and educating, be it through maybe working at some point or whatever the case might be. And so when I saw that opportunity, I was like, yep, that's it, right? This like I mentioned earlier, right? I saw an opportunity, and I'd like to think I followed my own advice, and I grabbed it with both hands and I put it in. And so where INSHPO is helping me, because again, it's got to be a mutually beneficial relationship, right? So I'd like to think that and thank you for your compliment, I feel like I'm adding value. I feel like I've got stuff to contribute, and I'm again looking forward to catching up with the team in Sydney at the World Congress, which would be really cool, and put my hand up to run a workshop while we're there, you know. And I know, Dee, you and I have been working on some things, and I guess what it's really helped me do, INSHPO, is so the bit that I'm taking away from it, which is really valuable for me, is it's helping me grow my professional network. And again, you know, when we talked about mentors and mentees, I guess I mentioned it's generally a long-term thing and it's over time, but there's also bits, like you said, we can have enriching conversations with other people. And so there's that old saying, it's not necessarily what you know, but it's also who you know, and that ability to engage with different people. So INSHPO is really helping me do that. The other thing that it's doing, you know, like I said, I want to be on the international stage, be it working or whatever the case might be. And so INSHPO is really helping me understand how safety traverses the globe. And one of the things I find in a lot of Aotearoa, we get isolated down here in the bottom of the world, and we don't necessarily, you know, like, oh, wow, we've got all these problems, or, oh, you know, contractor management this, or, you know, staff this. And so, you know, working on a global scale, you get to see, well, actually, the little problems that we've got here in Aotearoa are exactly the same that they've got, say, in Spain, for example, or the UK, or Canada, or America. And you're like, oh, thank goodness I'm not alone, right? Because you can get sucked up into your own little world there. And like I mentioned, and I guess it was something that I thought about while reflecting before we caught up, is I've ended up with a really awesome, diverse group of mentors. My internship with INSHPO is for 2 years. So over that 2-year period, I'm going to have a huge opportunity to, as you and I have already started building relationships and connections. And I think the reality is some will go beyond the internship, you know, as all relationships do, and some may not, but I've had the opportunity to find an incredibly diverse group of mentors from across the globe to help me with my professional and personal development. I mean, talk about inclusivity, right? We're working with people from Spain, we're working with people from Canada, America, you know, just across the globe. It's just really awesome. So there's it's just been a great opportunity so far, and looking forward to the next 12 months and what we can do there to help, you know,
me too.
Grow the profession.
A lot to do. And it's those connections, isn't it, as you say, that are so inspiring. You know, friendships, relationships develop. It's the connections when you do need to increase your knowledge or experience in an area. So really good to hear you say that. And you mentioned there about inclusivity and diversity as well. Do you think there's a need for more mentors in that space? Are there enough mentors out there? Should we be encouraging people to step up?
Interesting and fascinating. And I guess I might be a bit controversial here. I don't know if everyone is ready to be a mentor. You know what I mean? So I think it's got to be something. I mean, whether you know you're ready or not, I think that's a whole different question we could go down the road of, you know. But is everybody ready to be a mentor? And I don't think they necessarily are. So I think that's my first sort of lead into that question. But I think there are plenty of mentors out there that, and like I said, for me, I've had again, this opportunity to talk with you about this has really got me thinking about this whole thing. And like I said, there's a number of things where, you know, including my INSHPO situation, where I probably didn't really appreciate that I had a mentor-mentee relationship actually going on. So I would imagine out there across the globe, there are a number of mentor-mentee relationships occurring without us actually appreciating that they're occurring. So I definitely think there are, but I do believe that our profession, we've got a huge number of people across the globe, you know, with a huge range of backgrounds, and I definitely think there's an opportunity there, and people are doing it, and there are enough people. And I mean, if you think about our profession holistically, we want to help people, right? We want to give something to people. We want people to go home safely. We want people to go home healthy. And so, you know, mentoring is almost a natural kind of addition to what we're trying to do, helping others save lives. And I think as a mentor, it's having mentees are an extension of you to help change lives for the better.
I think you're right. I love that about our profession. There is that willingness, with everybody I've met in my career to share, because everybody wants to make things better for, people in workplaces around the world. There's no protectiveness about things that have worked. There is that huge willingness to share.
Yeah, definitely.
And you said something there that I think was really inspiring for our listeners, and it was about setting your own journey and your own destiny. So, yeah, great to have these coaching and mentor-mentee relationships. But what I love about you is that you've got that direction and you're seeking out your own opportunities. Is there any more advice you could give, again, people at the start of the profession on that, about how to plan that journey out and how to make their opportunities? Because you've been so good at that, seeking out those opportunities and developing those all important networks.
Yeah, I think I often, I'm getting a little bit older in age, Dee. Not all of us are getting younger, but I often reflect on the youth of today, and my worry is that people are starting to expect things just to happen. People are expecting things to just turn up for them, and unfortunately, it's just not the way. In fact, I think that's becoming harder and harder. You look at the way we're now connecting. Like you said a number of times, we're at two other ends of the world. There are so many other people we are now competing with. So, again, my words of encouragement to people starting out is be open-minded about your career, right? Don't go in and pigeonhole yourself. I've got to be honest, I went into the safety profession looking to pigeonhole myself based on a previous career path and going, I'm just going to work in this industry. I want to work in, and I'm not saying that was a bad thing, because that's what inspired me to get into safety. That's what inspired me to make those first steps, right? But I very quickly, once I got into it, talking with different people, had my eyes, I probably didn't appreciate how vast that their profession was. And so, again, very much encourage people, eyes wide open is probably the best way to describe it. Be open to experiences. So not only seek them out and jump on them, but be open to them. So if you are offered an opportunity, take it. Get in the experience it. Listen, it might not be a great experience, right? You might not like it. You might not appreciate it. And that could be a career opportunity. It could be, and like I've said to my mentee, actually, she's had a couple of opportunities where maybe she hasn't necessarily really enjoyed them, and they've been really difficult job situations. But don't focus on the negative. Focus on what you can take away from it. Be it, hey, I wouldn't do it that way again, or I learned not how to do something. And that's as valuable as learning how to do something. So, yeah, eyes wide open. Definitely be hungry, But if you don't know where you want to be or what you want to do, I actively encourage you, again, eyes wide open and explore. Try things, talk to people, attend different courses till you find what you want to do. And you can be a generalist. I love being a generalist health and safety person. It's quite confronting for some people, because when they start throwing out, hey, so what do you know about this regulation? I'm like, I don't know anything about it. But I know where to go find that information,
Yeah.
I
know what
you're the safety guy.
I know who to talk to.
Yeah, but they're like, you're the safety guy. And I'm like, yeah, so. And it's quite funny, as a generalist, you're often a facilitator of greatness, right? You're a facilitator of experiences, and you're a facilitator of finding information and pointing people in that right direction. And again, definitely. And also do things that scare you, Dee. I think, again, if you're not prepared to do something that scares you, you're never going to grow. And I, again, encourage people to do that.
That is great advice, because if you are in that generalist, there's still different opportunities to become a tutor, an educator, an assessor, a presenter, as you've said. You've got those aspirations to do. Some really good advice there. It's been such a pleasure to have this conversation with you. Any final tips on mentoring, menteeing, coaching for our audience before we part company? And I look forward to seeing you at World Congress.
Like I said, I just want to reiterate those key points. Look for opportunities, take opportunities with both hands, talk to as many people as you can, grow your network. Not necessarily, by all means, if you wish to seek out a mentor, but just talk to people, engage with people, and these things will happen naturally and occur naturally. And be open to being a mentor. Be open to appreciating that even if you are new in the safety space, you've potentially got a lot of life experience that you can offer other people, and value your experience. I just really want to reiterate those points, Dee. And listen, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute privilege, and thank you for, again, as we stick with the theme, thank you for the opportunity. It's been fantastic.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you for your passion, and thank you for your time.
No worries, Dee. We'll catch you soon in Sydney.
See you soon. Thanks, Brenton. Bye.